Welcome back to Worship Artists Society on 94.7 FM The Word. This is Eric Johnson. We're in studio with Mark Kelly talking about urban ministry, prison ministry, hip-hop scene in Denver, and how these things kind of work together and kind of play off each other. Something we'll talk about in this segment is relationships, husband, wife, different relationships, and Mark's got some cool insight on this as well. So if we're going to play a track in this segment as well from an artist called D Sharp, who owns Heat Entertainment. And the song's called Shiny Biz. And, Mark, you'll have to elaborate on some of that. But we'll pop that in a few minutes here. Mark, talk to us about, relationships and, how you've been able to minister to people within their relationships and just what you're seeing.
Sure. So I think... with relationships, the reason why I'm able to talk to, like I said, a lot of my things were focused on my son not having the same mistakes or going through some of the same trials and tribulations. My firstborn, as I share this information with all my kids, I have 4 kids, but your first one is your test subject, and so it was so close to when I was going through things. I was like, man, I really got to make sure this boy doesn't go through the same stuff. I had him actually praying. When he was 12, I had him praying for his wife.
Wow, that's awesome.
I said, wherever she is, pray that God will bring her to you, and pray that He would work on her for her to be the woman that you'll need in your life. And so, my son is married, and I have a grandson from that marriage, and of course, my second oldest son, he also has given me a grandson too. He was actually my first grandson. But yeah, my oldest boy, he followed everything, and he was like, okay, Dad, okay. And he prayed for her, and he saw her in church, our church one day, didn't even know who she was. And he says, hey, Pop, that's her.
Really?
Yeah. Didn't even know her name. He said, that's her.
Hopefully he didn't tell her in that moment.
No.
I'm going to marry you.
Well, what happened is he told my mom. He told his my grandmother's very involved in our church. And she goes, okay, I'll find out who she is. And she went and talked to her parents and this and that. They ended up going on, I guess, a first date to like Sonic's. and within less than a year, they were married.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did she know? How long did it take for her to figure out, this is the guy? I
honestly don't know how long it took for her. But, you figure they were married within less than a year. So she bought everything he was selling.
It's interesting because it's the same thing that happened to me, but inverse. Like my wife knew the first day she met me, she was going to marry me. She called her mom and said, Mom, I met the guy I'm going to marry. And I was playing a show downtown. And I always tell her, I'm so glad you didn't tell me that you were going to marry me because I probably would have ran away.
My wife was the same way. We were both cashiers at a hardware store.
Okay.
And she said when she first saw me, she goes, God told me I was going to marry you.
Whoa.
And so what's crazy is we went our separate, we dated for a short period of time, and we went our separate directions. And life took her where it took her, and life took me where it took me. And it came all the way back around. She actually talked to the mailman on my block. And I happened to be close with this mailman. And this is years later because his son went to the same school as my daughter. And I would see him at PTSA meetings and this kind of thing. Yeah. And she says, hey, I'm looking for Mark Kelly. I just want to put this letter in his mailbox. He says, ma'am, I can't give you that information. And he basically said, you'd have to just go on every house on this block and knock on the door because I can't tell you which house is his. But then he said, I would probably start at that house and work my way, whatever. And
if I were you.
Exactly. And so that house happened to be my house. And we had reconnected, and the rest is history. So we've been married coming up on 12 years, been back together now for 16. I've known her for like 27.
Wow. Congrats, man. That's awesome. And how many kids do you have now?
So I have 4 kids.
4 kids.
3 boys and a girl.
Okay.
And two grandsons.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You just don't seem old enough, but we'll go with that.
Internally, I am for sure.
So we're going to roll up this track real quick from D Sharp from Heat Entertainment called Shiny Biz. If we can go ahead and get that rolling.
Yeah.
Shiny biz, shine so bright. I be on the shiny biz. They looking at me, shiny, they looking at me, shiny, I be on my shiny biz. I ain't flipping keys, not that grimy biz. Kingdom like, y'all know what it is. This here free, gon' get a piece of this. I be on my shiny biz. I ain't flipping keys, not that grimy biz. Kingdom like, y'all know what it is. This here free, gon' get a piece of this. Got the key to heaven, know I'm talking about. Hatin', check the bank account. Woo, shut your mouth. I'm spitting while you on hold. I'm getting it, spitting that gold. Try and flex on me, I'ma stretch you, homie. This ain't no election, homie. Clip that, I'm a veteran, homie. We paint them kids, we swing like this. My kingdom, this is kingdom biz. All around me, we best for days. Irrelevant like yesterday. I'm telling it, boy, I narrate. I'm like Ali, I'm a heavyweight. You deserve an Oscar, boy, you've been nagged.
So that's D Sharp, owner of Heat Entertainment, with the tune Shiny Biz. Mark, so you know D Sharp and you've done prison ministry together. We were talking about relationships, and you just told me off air that you had actually officiated a wedding.
Yes.
Recently. How was that?
So it was a young lady that I've known for many, many years, and her twin brothers are actually real close friends with my son. And she's worked for me, for my company and that kind of thing, helping with administrative stuff and that kind of thing. So she just came to me one day and she's like, "Pops, would you marry us?" And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well," and I know her boyfriend. And so I said, "Well, I want to meet with him a little bit and kind of see where he's at." So I did and suggested some books and talked to him about his spirituality, and he's a believer. So yeah, I did. I'm not ordained, but in the state of Colorado, you don't have to be.
Yeah.
But I'm probably going to have to go in that direction. But yeah, I married them. I had a niece just call me a couple weeks ago, and she's like, "Uncle, can you marry us in Tennessee?" And I was like, "Good grief." Yeah. So when I've officiated a couple things and preached, and so yeah. So it's no matter how serious you take it, or if you want to run away from it, you can't. You
can't get away once you start.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, this really speaks to, for me, the importance of us in ministry coming alongside maybe younger couples and, ministering. My hope is that I'm going to do a Valentine's Day special with my wife, have her in, and a couple other ministry leaders, and just talk about the relationship and how important marriage is when you're in ministry. And for us, we have people who are younger than us who are, just getting married or just having their first kids.
Right.
And, we've got 4 too. And so they're coming to us and saying, how did you do this? What did this look like? And, very tense about things. And I think, like you said, like with the first one, it's like, I remember my first kid, just with Avery, was just being so scared about everything,
right.
Just hovering over her. And now with, the fourth, it's like, just let them crawl around, do their thing. And there's no stress about the baby anymore,
right.
Except when I'm not getting sleep. But if you're in ministry and you're married, invest in other people in your church, or maybe some of you work with, and speak into their life. Like you have more authority, and voice in their life than maybe you realize. Especially when you know the Lord and that He has taught you things, brought you through things that you maybe don't process on a regular basis, but you have a voice to speak into these people's lives. And it sounds like you're doing that in a real tangible way. Yeah,
I think it's I try to, and even I speak to older individuals that I know when I have maybe some relationship concerns or issues or that kind of thing. I'll speak to one of my pastors or that kind of thing. I think every generation that's ahead of one generation could really prevent a lot of the pitfalls that come in life if they would just speak to a young couple or to a couple that's younger to them. And of course, on the reverse side of that, the young couple has to be willing to hear it.
Right.
and receive it. But I mean, everything doesn't have to be brand new. We can just build upon what we already know.
Yeah, and sometimes when you have a platform as a worship leader, or in your case, if you were still involved in hip hop, there would be people who are just gravitating towards the art that you're doing or the voice that you have, and those are typically the ones that you can really speak into because they already appreciate who you are. I mean, for me, a big part of me playing music is just giving me a voice into people's lives because they've seen what I can do, what time I've invested to get where I'm at. And then all of a sudden they care about what I say because they want to see themselves in a similar position. Right. And so that gives us a voice. And, if you got a merch table, instead of just selling merch and signing stuff, it's like, no, start talking to these people because whoever's walking up to your table likes what you're putting down, you know what I mean? And,
right.
and you have a voice, and that one moment can change someone's life, just a few words.
Right. Well, and a lot of artists, when a lot of artists, when they write their music or perform their songs, they're actually ministering to themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of preachers will tell you that too. When they're preaching to the congregation, they're actually preaching to themselves.
That's really interesting. So I think we'll have Mark back and go a little deeper into some of these things. And make sure to check out Good #2 letter D Hood. So good to
the hood.
There you go. And the YouTube channel and podcast. So thanks for listening to us on Worship Artist Society on 94.7 FM The Word. If you like what you're hearing, you can access all of my past shows via podcasts on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe and review. If you want to join the conversation, email us at worshipartistsociety@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Eric Johnson. Learn to love your voice.